Whatever you might be going through and wherever you might be, this is Omar Serrato with the Tilted Lawyer Podcast. I'm here to take your mind off of things. Yes, I'm an attorney. No, I'm not giving you legal advice. We're going to sit and talk like people, as these are the candid thoughts of one practicing attorney, and it's after hours. So have a seat. Feel free to have a drink and join me. Let's get started.
Good evening, folks. This is Omar Serrato with the Tilted Lawyer Podcast. I am joined by the legendary Schnitzel Ninja.
Hey.
Of Laura Owens Clayton Eckerd fame. The woman behind the scenes of the campaign against victims of Laura Owens. She's here to join me to talk about this Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni lawsuit. Why do I give a shit about this case? That's a great question. Number one, the legal questions that are examined in a lawsuit like this is kind of right up my alley. It's pretty much what I do for a living. Whenever you have a case where you have plaintiffs blaming people for sexual harassment or similar sexual malfeasance, I defend people against those kinds of cases. And here, Blake Lively has made some claims. I spent like maybe 10 or 11 hours. I don't know. I did like 4 videos. I had a bunch of different guests. Bruce from Oregon joined me for one. My old partner, Ileana Rosa, joined me for another. Schnitzel, I think you joined for one, didn't you?
I did.
Was it 1 or 4? It must have been the first one.
I think it was the first one.
Yeah. And then in the fourth one, I did by myself because it's like, you know what? I got to finish. If I have to guess, I'm never going to finish. And then I did. And since that's happened, there's been some things that have occurred. I've had an opportunity to sit and think on the evidence that's been presented, on the public relations job that Baldonis have gone through in promoting this idea that their client is the victim and that Blake Lively is a liar. And at the very least, she's being unreasonable. One of you, and I'll start with my premise. I mean, I'm going to get to some of the PR stuff later. It's fascinating the way that this is playing out. It's about as public as a lawsuit gets. You have a situation where letters are being written to the judge by both sides, and all of the receipts are out there. And it's fascinating to me how Friedman, Baldoni's attorney, is attacking the evidence in this case. We've seen very recently another attorney try to handle PR for a quasi, I don't even want to call it a celebrity case, a case of interest. He took it upon himself. He was going to do PR for his client, and he did about as bad of a job as I could remember. I mean, really in my lifetime. I couldn't imagine it going any worse than it has gone and continues to go, and we'll see where it ends up. But we're not here to talk about that per se tonight. The way that Baldoni's attorneys are attacking it is the way that people have requested other attorneys in the Eckerd case to make their arguments, which was to say, look, show us the receipts. You have claims, I want to see the evidence. You have arguments, I want to see the evidence. They're full of shit, they're lying, then show me, prove it. Now, we're in the very infancy of litigation here in a case that is slated for trial in 2026. That I believe, number one, I don't believe this is going to go to trial. I got to tell you, this has settlement written all over it. I don't think that Blake Lively is going to want the smoke. I think that she is deathly afraid. Well, we know that she's afraid of getting deposed, specifically by Friedman, because she went and told the judge that, hey, bullshit, I don't want to be deposed by this guy that's cheating. I mean, she didn't say it like that, but she essentially played her cards. I said, look, I'm afraid of that guy. He's going to ask me questions, and I don't want to be sitting across from a table from him with his intimidating stare and gaze, knowing that he's going to be ultimately prepared and that there's nothing that's going to leave my mouth that's not going to be fact-checked the moment it leaves my mouth. I don't want to deal with it. Anybody but him. And the judge is like, that's not how that works. So no to that. Is there anything else I can do? They exchanged letters to the judge where they were both kind of requesting extensions of time, and it was for various different reasons. And Baldoni's lawyer shot back, look, we asked for this very same extension of time. They didn't have the common courtesy to grant it back then. We're not opposed to an extension of time. All we ask is, if you're going to grant them an extension of time, then we should have an extension of time to respond. And the judge is like, fair points. And you know what? Here's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to give them exactly what they're asking for. I'm going to give them a couple extra days. And I think that he also extended Baldoni's response time by a similar amount of days. It's only fair. I think the civil rules dictate as much. So part of this case, the reason why I jumped on it as fast as I did was, number one, I couldn't get out of my inbox without all of you people, not all of you people, so many of you people asking me to comment on it. And I entered into Schnitzel. Have you seen the movie yet?
No,
I still have not.
I haven't. I've seen clips, but not the whole thing.
Is that like a Valentine's Day special? You're gonna
Not in this house.
It ends with us, the musical.
It's sick. I hate movie musicals in general.
There's only one that I've ever liked is Jesus Christ Superstar, and that's only because my uncle acted in it, and I was fascinated by it. He played Caiaphas.
That's cool. Wait, in the movie version?
No, not in the movie. It was like this junior college level play.
Okay.
But it was my introduction to musicals. Like, oh, that's cool as fuck. My uncle is Caiaphas.
That's really neat. I mean, that's like a rock and roll kind of music, right? I
mean, it's early 70s. It's right up there with the Beach Boys, Beatles, Jimi Hendrix. No, I think it would have been past Jimi Hendrix, but it was in that area of long hair, rock, metal, that kind of stuff.
Not like a typical musical music you would think.
Oh no, it wasn't Gigi. He certainly wasn't
Gigi.
Oh, that was back when I was 8 years old. My grandmother was like, "Hey, we're gonna watch a movie," because I told her that I liked a girl named Gigi. It's like, "Hey, there happens to be a musical, and the title of the movie is Gigi, and we're gonna watch it." And it was the most boring 1950s musical. Like, Grandma, what the fuck? I didn't tell her that, but it's what I was thinking in my 8-year-old brain. So what is just ruined our whole Friday night with this shit?
Oh, that's so funny. Like, as an 8-year-old, thinking about how much this movie sucks.
It was terrible. And so,
well, I won't check it out.
No, I mean, you can if you want to, if you're like a movie historian, I guess.
I'll read the synopsis online.
Yeah, read the synopsis. All right. So I had this pulled up. There was a commenter, a new subscriber. And you know what? I'm going to share this comment with all of you because I thought that it was cool. She's like a law student. She was asking like a genuine question. And then I must have given some snappy, random, rambling response. I think she might have got offended. But I dialed it back some, and I just I made some legal arguments, some legal observations that I thought were pertinent to what we're talking about. I promise it's going to be good. Community. All right. This is the comment that was left for me by DC03506. Is it on my screen? Cool. So she says, LMAO, I'm slightly confused and maybe reading between the lines, but you're trying to tell me that I won't be a good lawyer because I don't have reasonable arguments as I'm currently in law school. I don't know how to take that 3 to 4 minute rant about my comment. And I didn't know what she was talking about at first. But essentially what I was talking about was for Lively to make these allegations against a guy like Justin Baldoni, who literally began this movie as like a passion project aimed at raising awareness for victims of domestic violence, then your claims at the very bare minimum have to be reasonable. And then she had left a previous comment. It's like, well, what about if we're just viewing it through her lens? And she was genuinely offended by what happened. And I said, well, I went on a 4-minute rant. I said, well, that's bullshit. We can't just all account for everybody's sensibilities. Some people, there's some outliers out there, like 90% are within the norm. And there's 10% on either side of the spectrum that stand to be outliers. I don't know if that's even the correct percentage. What is outliers in statistics? Like 3%. I forget the range.
I don't know.
It was a long time ago. My response to her was, well, ideally, arguments should be reasonable, LOL. I'm not exactly sure what you're referring to. I think it was your comment about the Blake Lively lens. And I guess I turned that into a 3 to 4 minute rant about the reasonableness of her claims. And then she was like, yes, the lens comment. It's like, great. So I told her this. And this has been my observation after sitting through 168 pages of timeline evidence from Baldoni's lawyers and reading through her pleadings. All the pleadings. I was looking for evidence of something that resembled sexual harassment. And this is what I observed. I know it was not a legal argument, and I understood you wanted me to consider her complaint through her lens, but I have to view it through a legal lens. Have to. Not to disrespect anyone's subjectivity, but sexual harassment claims are viewed independently. Some would consider it sexual harassment to complement someone's suit in a non-sexual way. 1% might take that comment as sexual, no matter how it was framed, and run an HR and file a claim. In law, we treat outliers as such because it's unfair to those accused to play by rules that are not reasonable. So Lively has 2 sexual harassment claims. One of them was against Wayfarer, and it ends with Us LLC. And then there's the claims against Baldoni. And the first claim was against her employers, which in order for her to succeed, she has to demonstrate that the conduct was unwelcome. She has to name the conduct, for one. She talked about fat shaming, and she talked about sexual inappropriate comments and sharing sexual history. You know, the comments, the conduct that she had talked about in her complaint that we went over in Baldoni's retorts. The conduct was because of sex and not for some other reason. Like, for example, to show somebody a heartfelt family video of a pregnancy and the aftermath and sitting in a tub, not to be a couple of centimeters off in the blocking of a kissing scene where there was supposed to be intimacy coordinators and all these other nudity writers and things that she never signed, by the way. That were designed to protect her from unwanted conduct. The conduct was sufficiently severe or pervasive to alter the conditions of employment and create an abusive work environment. That's really important because then you ask, how do you even define that? And the answer is, it has to be conduct that a reasonable person would find severe and pervasive enough to alter conditions of employment. And as far as I can tell, there was nobody coming out behind the woodworks complaining about Baldoni's behavior on the set.
Yeah.
Not just from Baldoni, but from anybody. There was protections in place. Everybody seems to be fine. This seems to be a dispute strictly between her and Justin for whatever reason. And I got my own theories about why that happened. I think, and I'm even more convinced that she was catching feelings for Justin. She was getting a little bit flirty, and she was really off put by the fact that he wasn't responding in kind. She offers a little text messages about flirtatious conundrums and no teeth. And he responds with, God damn, I wish I miss my wife and kids. And she was like, this motherfucker. From that point on, the tides they changed a little bit. They changed a little bit, and all of a sudden, his conduct was unreasonable, and she was unwilling to do certain things, and 17 different demands, and all this other stuff, right? So there's a case that illustrates the point, and these are from the federal rules. Well, actually, is this one? No, because it was a state claim. So the reasonableness of the employee's remedial measures. So the claim being against the company, they're supposed to protect against this unwanted conduct. Where did I leave off? The reasonableness of the employer's remedial measures is a critical factor. Federal courts assess whether the employer's actions were reasonably calculated to end the harassment, with the reasonableness of the remedy depending on its ability to stop the current harassment and deter future harassment. That's a case that came out in 2022, Bailey versus San Francisco. It appears from the pleadings that both studios bent over backwards to accommodate her multitude of demands. They're going to argue that they meaning Wayfarer and the LLC, they're going to argue that any discomfort that she felt subjectively, regardless of whether or not it was reasonable or not, was the result of her not utilizing the measure put in place by the companies to protect against such conduct at her own peril, namely not abiding by the nudity riders, by not signing them and not waiting to have the intimacy coordinator on present at all times during scenes that would have required it. So she's also claiming sexual harassment in violation of the FEHA 12940, unlawful employment practice, and that specifically must meet a reasonable person standard. Specifically, the harassment must be sufficiently severe or pervasive to alter the conditions of employment and create an abusive working environment. This standard is assessed from the perspective of a reasonable person in the plaintiff's position, such as maybe any of the other actors on set. This standard is assessed from the perspective of a reasonable person, plaintiff's position. That's from Dickinson versus Burke Williams, another California case. The conduct must be such that a reasonable person subjected to it would find it hostile or abusive. That's from Meza versus Nelio Education Fund. Additionally, the totality of the circumstances is considered to determine whether a hostile work environment exists. And one could argue that the environment in the workplace did not really turn hostile, like openly and notoriously hostile, until she decided to start making demands and having a say-so in the editing process and demanding that Baldoni be taken off of the credits and that she be given her PGA credits when she didn't do anything to merit them. Yeah. And essentially using her weight and influence and connections in Hollywood to push Justin out of the movie that he had worked years to get credits for, that would have probably meant wonders for his career. It still may, or this, no matter how it turns out, might turn out to destroy his career. I don't know. We'll see. But based on those laws, Schnitzel, I know that you spent like 12 hours with Lauren on her live stream going over all of this shit. Is there anything in your memory that rises to the level of that?
Not at all.
That a reasonable person would have deemed it unreasonable?
No, and you know my background. And my answer is no. There's nothing I see there that was unreasonable.
Right. I finished this comment to this young law student, not to rehash her claims in YouTube comments, but her claims of harassment, fat shaming via personal trainer, taking liberties during kissing scenes, talking about past sexual experiences, seem to be void of corroborating facts. I don't know. It's very early on in discovery. We'll see what comes out in the wash. But from right now, I don't see anything that corroborated her claims. I finished. So I wasn't trying to be a dick. I was just pointing out the legal basis of her argument based on what's contained in the pleadings is weak. Maybe in discovery, other stuff comes out, but it's not looking good. I should have just made a video on this question. That was a good one. Look, I've addressed it now on a new video, like a day later. So that's enough of that. Yeah, so that was my after sitting with this evidence for about a week now, having completed it all, I just don't see this being a sexual harassment case. What this is going to what this is going to come down to is whether or not Blake Lively and her husband and team tried to run a smear campaign on Justin Baldoni. Not just in published word or video, but behind the scenes, making false allegations to potential future employers that Baldoni is a sexual predator is a really big deal when the facts that I see that they're claiming support that idea is what we know, which is kind of lacking. Oh, and the dragons. Oh, and Taylor Swift is pissed off at her. So
See, that's what we hear too. So I'm always like, I don't know if who is this close source? Is it actually a close source or is it just gossip?
yeah.
I don't know. And I was wondering too, oh shit. That woman Candace.
Owens?
Yeah.
Yes.
What was she? Do you believe the information she's been fed about Ryan coming in and like kind of exploding and demanding to see the dailies and all that kind of stuff?
That sounds plausible.
Mm.
And I don't even know what those claims are, but here's what I know. I know that there were 2 occasions in that timeline that we went over where Ryan Reynolds had a incongruous reaction to Justin for no reason. He has a back injury. He asked Lively how much she weighs. And then he comes over. How dare you ask my wife how much she weighs? Don't you ever talk to her like that again. Will Smith style.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like he puts him in this position. The other time was when they're going over grievances for production of the movie. And then he's unreasonably just singling out Justin. And people are wondering, like, what the fuck is actually going on?
Mm-hmm.
Where does that come from? I think it comes from him catching wind that Lively might have been into this guy and her justifying flirty text messages and or certain comments made to other third parties that we don't know about yet by saying, oh, Justin tricked me. I'm a victim. He's a predator. Believe it or not, one of the defense mechanisms for women who have buyer's remorse from a sexual encounter or failed sexual encounter sometimes happens to be they'll just claim SA or SH. I've defended more than one who had found themselves in that predicament. One of them was guilty. One of them was wholeheartedly innocent, and there was video evidence to prove it. And so it's not beyond plausibility for me. And I'm not basing this off of any insider information. I'm just saying that Reynolds' behavior towards Justin just seemed unwarranted and is a huge flag, a huge red flag with what might have been going on behind the scenes. What did he really do?
Yeah.
I mean, what
I have a theory.
What's your theory?
I find it, I'm not so much into the theory of her like developing any kind of feelings for him. I'm more of the thought that, as we've heard in this Forbes interview, that I think she comes into a situation, especially one like this, where she wanted to have more control than just the actor's role, than just the executive producer's role. I think that when she was getting pushback from him, and even though he acquiesced after the meeting with Taylor and Ryan, I think that she was not happy with things not going as much her way as she was hoping they would. So I can see her befriending the author, befriending the rest of the cast, starting to already plot this thing before the writer's strike, of how she wanted things to go. I think she could have told the other actors, oh my God, Justin did this. Like, why would Blake Lively lie about this stuff, right? Like, if you're an actor, a supporting actor in this movie, someone who's not super well known, you're going to believe, I mean, the younger lady, like, let Blake dress her. Like, and, she's like, oh, Blake loaned me these shoes and she's been so amazing and blah, blah, all this stuff. So I could see her telling them, oh, this stuff happened. I could see her telling Ryan, oh, well, I can't believe it. He was so unprofessional. Like, he tried to kiss me and he was kissing my neck and it wasn't planned. And I'm so uncomfortable. I don't know what to do. Like, and it's just, making up this whole facade of like how things were when in reality, they weren't like that at all. So I wonder how much of it is what is reality, or maybe her having feelings, versus what she has made up and told other people.
Well, that would make her a sociopath, wouldn't it? If that's true, that this was all just for personal gain and to gain influence on the movie. The way that she was acting with Justin, all friendly and, making friends and sharing family photos and holding each other's children or whatever they were doing. They were friendly at first for like a long time. And then it flipped, and I feel like
And she could have been using him too to try to like bring him in closer and be like, trust me, let me have more power here, kind of thing. Like, I don't know. That's where my head is more.
That would be the sociopath angle of it all, except Reynolds' reaction doesn't make any sense to me.
If it's true, though, if that really happened. Because the source, she said she didn't vet the source.
Okay, but what if right, so maybe let's just ignore that part of it for a minute. Let's just talk about the stuff that was in Baldoni's timeline, about the 2 verifiable times where Reynolds kind of went in on Justin. Mm-hmm. Nothing about those interactions makes any sense outside of some kind of jealousy or accusation on the part of Lively to Reynolds that he was a predator, and he's like defending her honor or is acting out of jealousy. Anything outside of those 2 possibilities doesn't make sense to me. Mm-hmm. And so what I know about Hollywood, not that I'm a historian on Hollywood or anything, it's just that all of the drama in Hollywood historically, like going back to the 1900s, revolves around sex. It just does.
Yeah.
It's this whole Me Too movement, the casting couch era, relationships and affairs. And I mean, hell, fucking I Love Lucy started because she thought Ricky Ricardo was hot. And they started, their thing, and they began the greatest sitcom of American history, or one of them. The founding fathers of sitcoms. I don't know. And the reason why that show ended was because, Lucy was a little too old and she had kids, and Ricky was messing around, and
he wasn't interested anymore.
I mean, she was like 50 years old at that point. And so they were just kind of moving on to bigger and better, even back in whenever that would have been, 58, 57. Everything in Hollywood is driven by these sexual relationships. And I can see, and it's not that Lively's the only one that plays this card, the sociopath. We're just going to manipulate everybody into doing our bidding so that I can gain influence in the film. It's not the first time that idea has popped up. And I had an article that I wanted to share that came out in 2009. I found this on the It Ends With Lawsuits subreddit. There's this article. Let me see if I can pull up the actual thing, not just a picture. Where Lively admitted in 2009 to poisoning the entire cast. So this is from the quote. You know what? I'm going to share my screen so you guys know what I'm talking about. If you're interested in this case and you don't know about this subreddit, it's a really good resource for all of the inside stuff that's going on with this case. I just found it today, and it's wonderful. But this is it. So back in 2009, 16 years ago, that would have put her, 20, 21, 22 maybe? Full context of the quote. So this was featured in Glamour UK magazine, August of 2009. This is in reference to a time before Blake Lively started dating Penn Badgley. Who was that?
He was one of the actors on Gossip Girl. I never watched Gossip Girl, but he was on that. Now he's the lead of the show You on Netflix.
Oh, the guy the guy, like the
serial killer. Yeah.
I was really into that show for like 2 seasons.
It's great. The final season's coming out in like April or something.
But it got real dumb after like season 3. He's like, okay.
Yeah.
Like the UK version, I think I got 4 episodes in. It's like, yeah, this is stupid as fuck.
This is the last season, so I'm curious to see how they wrap it up. I'll watch it just for that.
I mean, it got really torturous though. I mean, it just got a little bit much with the. All right, so she's dating Penn Badgley. Full context of the quote. Lively, who has previously refuted reports of discord on the gossip set, tells the magazine that she gets along well with her co-stars. We hang out after filming. She insists we actually look forward to spending time together outside of work. That includes her real-life leading man, Penn Badgley, although she admits she was unhappy when he was cast on the series. At first, I was so upset that they hired him. She says, I actually poisoned the whole cast against him. But then they noticed that he wasn't a jerk and was actually really nice, charming person. Almost immediately, I realized that too. But it took me about a week to admit it. What would be her motivation back then to poisoning the cast against this guy, Peter?
To be a fucking cunt. That's what.
Like real life Mean Girls, I guess, you know?
Yeah.
So she has the propensity to do that at least 16 years ago. And now she's doing it as an adult, but with higher stakes.
Yeah.
Because she is in a position of influence and she has an influential husband. And so it's not like she hasn't done it before. And all the evidence seems to be pointing to the direction that she was acting behind the scenes with her husband to plot and scheme the poisoning of Baldoni's character is the only way that I could describe it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not trying to go all 100% pro Justin Baldoni here. I'm not saying that. All I'm saying is the evidence that I'm looking at, I have questions and I'm curious to see what's going to come out with the rest of the discovery. But I have had this thought since I started reading about this case. It's like, Justin just seems like way too squeaky clean in these text messages. Something's off. Something is wrong. My suspicion was that there were other text messages that were going to show other things. But then I caught wind that maybe there isn't, because they don't have the text messages and they're legitimately trying to subpoena all of the text records going back to, I don't even know how long.
2.5 years.
2.5 years? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, there's nothing extraordinary about that. That's pretty commonplace for discovery in a civil case involving defamation and some of these other causes of action. Where did I have the article over here for that one? This was, yes. So this is what they're doing. And I'll share my screen before I get too caught in the weeds. So Blake Lively challenges Justin Baldoni's receipts by bringing AT&T, T-Mobile, and Verizon into It Ends With Us battle. All right. If Justin Baldoni thought his version of what went on during the making of It Ends With Us and the messy fallout from the film was going to go unchallenged, today, Blake Lively gave her former co-star a lesson in hardcore lawyering. Give me a fucking break, hardcore. It's like anything that anybody would normally do. It's like in the main boilerplate playbook. All right, so discovery, text messages, subpoena phone records.
These days, I mean, it's totally normal.
You're not thinking outside of the box. And I'll tell you what else. It's like it's the stupidest thing ever to try to present text messages that you try to manipulate because it's so easily discoverable. Nobody does that anymore. I think people know better.
Well, she didn't, apparently.
Well, it's hardcore lawyering. Who the fuck wrote this article? Hardcore lawyering. Dominic Patton? Who is this guy?
Oh, he looks like he's from the 1800s in that picture.
Totally. All right. So this hardcore lawyering, this is what it's about. So he's sending out a series of subpoenas to cell carriers, AT&T, T-Mobile, Verizon, as well as alleged social media manipulator Jed Wallace. The Gossip Girl vet and Ryan Reynolds want to get a look at the real receipts to cite Baldoni and his main lawyer, Brian Friedman's assertion of transparency. Here is the extreme danger of that. So Friedman has very boisterously declared that his 168-page timeline, although not comprehensive, is receipts of malfeasance on the part of Blake Lively. If they're going to turn around and say that those aren't receipts, let me show you some receipts. I got these subpoenas here. Watch this hardcore strategy of subpoenaing AT&T and Verizon and whatever. Now, if they don't produce anything other than exactly what was produced already in this timeline, they've lost all credibility.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if this is going to poison the jury pool per se, because I don't know how much people are invested in this case to dive into the finer intricacies of civil litigation discovery. But the judge sure as fuck is going to know about during these depositions, about what's come out, what they're claiming, what they're trying to prove, and what they're not going to be able to prove. All that's going to come out in the wash. This is a credibility game at this point. And where I started the premise for this video was this idea that Friedman, Baldoni's lawyer, is putting on a master class in how to conduct public relations. Now, Brian Friedman has been around Hollywood forever. I forgot what other famous case he worked on. But he's been around Hollywood. He just doesn't give a fuck. He knows how to talk to the media. He knows what to say. He's not concerned about fucking up. But part of that is because before he opens his mouth, before he says anything, and Gingerbread should be paying attention here if you're not following the Laura Owens case. David Gingras is a guy that we have covered on this channel before. He is Laura Owens' current attorney, and they're in the midst of an appellate battle. He has very infamously attempted to conduct public relations. I don't know if he was hired to do that or not, but he's taken it upon himself to do that. And he has tried to conduct these PR campaigns via social media, Twitter, YouTube, and other similar avenues to turn the tide of public opinion against Laura Owens to the opposite of that, in favor of Laura Owens. The problem that we have with him is that he was lazy and unprepared, uncouth in his responses, didn't know the facts of his case, didn't know the facts that were out there. Everybody that you would see him joust with in public arenas seemed to know the case a lot better than he. He would make these declarations that he was going to go on other people's shows and debate the facts with people such as Reality Steve, myself. I don't know if he wanted to debate Dave Neal. He was given multiple opportunities to do such a thing. And every time he would be confronted with the facts, he kind of withered. And so people stopped taking him serious. He lost so much credibility that people started to have sympathy for Laura Owens, who started as this reviled character because of this idea that she had victimized through false allegations, multiple men such as Clayton Eckert, such as Mike Maricini, such as Greg Gillespie, and I think that's it. Others unknown to me anyway. He did such a bad job that Owens almost became a sympathetic figure. People forgot all about the bad stuff that Owens did and started to focus on his ineptitude as an attorney. Is this effing guy going to get disbarred? Does this guy even know about his case? Does this guy even know the law? What is he on about? What is he talking about? Complete loss of credibility. I've never seen it before. Never seen it before. He would say things knowing that he was going to get fact checked. I don't even want to say that he knew. He had to have known that he was going to get fact checked on stuff. He would say stuff all the time that was readily verifiable online, and when called out on his bullshit, would just wither into a ball and die. I am dead to him. I've been dead to him since I think about Christmas or November, because I called him out on a lot of different legal bullshit arguments that he was making. And the rest is history with that. Now, this other guy, Brian Friedman, who's actually knows how to run a PR campaign, was so overly prepared in the facts of this case. And that's evidenced by way of, look, in the Reddit stratosphere, there is a group of internet sleuths. Would you consider yourself to be a part of those that kind of did background research and published things on Reddit or other places to raise awareness of what was going on in the Owens case?
Yes.
Okay.
and that case made me that. I was not that before.
But you got reeled into it, and it became a project of yours, a passion project, yes, because of how crazy that case was. And
my own past trauma, that it resonated with me for a multitude of reasons. Yeah. You and a group of others put out a Reddit timeline history of facts and text messages and evidence going back, like, I don't know, 10 years or something like that. That I don't think that Gingras was
all that familiar with,
He says he hasn't ever read them.
which is stupid as fuck. Why would you represent Laura Owens and not at least be aware of the contents of what was in there? It's lazy, inept lawyering. There's like 30 different attorneys that I would have referred Laura Owens to before I don't think I would have ever referred her Gingras, but I could think of 30 different attorneys that I know that would have represented Owens and at the very least been aware of what was in those facts. And those were put out there by others. Now, take this guy Friedman. He wasn't waiting around for the Reddit internet sleuths to dig in and expose facts. He had his team of researchers and investigators uncover all of these things, put together this 168-page document that was full of paragraphs upon paragraph tied to facts and text messages and evidence supporting that his client, Justin Baldoni, has been victimized and vilified unceremoniously by Blake Lively. And where it started, when I first read this case about Lively, I didn't know who Justin Baldoni was. I didn't know if the claims were bullshit or not. I gave her the benefit of the doubt. But upon seeing the evidence that's been presented by Baldoni's attorneys, my mind has not flipped entirely in favor of Lively. With respect to the sexual harassment claims, I don't see it, but I know that we're also not done with evidence, so I'm still reserving judgment. I'm just saying, with respect to the public sentiment regarding these two, it seems to be going the way of Depp v. Heard, where Amber Heard was originally this sympathetic character, and then in a very short amount of time, it completely flipped, where it just got out of control and all of the craziness that was going on with that case. So
yeah, I watched the whole thing. I was super into that.
That was before I was a YouTuber, I think. I'm pretty sure. I think I got in like around the tail end. That would have been a fun case to cover.
It was so much. I watched so many videos. I remember taking my son to the playground and having an AirPod in and like watching the trial.
I remember getting introduced to that trial by that lady with the purple hair, Baker. What's her name? Baker something.
Oh, I didn't watch. Who did I watch? I watched. No, it doesn't matter. But I didn't watch her.
Well, I watched the purple hair lady because she used to practice in the same courthouse.
Oh, Emily D. Baker.
Emily D. Baker. That's
yeah. I did see some of her videos.
Yes. And I just remember, who's this crazy ass lady with the purple hair? There's a really good chance that I was in the same courtrooms with her a long time ago.
That's cool.
Like when I was just a baby, puppy little attorney. She was at the DA's office, and I know for a fact I had trials over there. I never had a case with her. And if I did know her, I don't think she would have had purple hair back then. Besides the point. So anyway, so Miss Lively, continuing with this article, has initiated discovery that will expose the people, tactics, and methods that have worked to destroy and bury her reputation and family over the past years, according to attorneys Ezra Hudson and Michael Gottlieb. And Gottlieb is a big one. Said Wednesday as the search for Team Baldoni phone records flew out the door. The danger in making a statement like that is you better fucking produce. Because if it's just as Baldoni said, it's going to be problematic. It's going to position them.
Didn't they subpoena the texts already to try like the defamation thing? Or were those just texts that they got from the PR person?
I don't know specifically if they've already actually subpoenaed text messages or if they already just had them in their possession.
I think it was because that lady, though I can't remember the names, but the one lady kept the other lady's phone and said it was company property.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Oh,
and then she boasted around the office that she had these messages and she was sharing personal information.
That's not really the same as a subpoena, though. That's more
No. But like the texts that were included in the New York Times article, where did those come from? Did those come just from that woman having possession of that cell phone, or was that via a subpoena?
I don't know that for sure. I'd like to think that it was not from a subpoena because I think that we've just begun the discovery process and all of it.
Right. So how could they have gotten one already?
Yeah. And that takes time. I mean, 60 to 90 days, maybe longer to get the actual records from the phone companies. I doubt that those were the result of subpoenas. The point is that they're making these claims, they better deliver. They're making promises. It's no different than if you're in a jury trial and you're giving your opening statements and you prove to a jury or you promise to a jury that you're going to prove all of these things. And then at the conclusion of the trial, the conclusion of your case in chief, you haven't promised all of those things or proven all of your promises. You lose credibility. That's how you lose trials. So we're not at that stage yet, but in terms of public perception, it goes a long way. Continuing, the subpoenas went out to the entities below. The due of the telecoms, Wallace, AOL, Cloudflare. We will now receive all the receipts that, unsurprisingly, are nowhere to be found on Mr. Friedman's website. And like Miss Lively, those receipts will have their day in court. Imagine that, like, they turn up like a dick pic or something. It's so kind of crazy.
No, I know. It feels like such a huge invasion of privacy.
Well, they're going to see those things. You can't just publish those records.
Like, is Blake allowed to see the results of all of that?
Yeah.
So she could have access to like a dick pic or like a boob pic from his wife?
100%.
That's fucked up.
There's nothing they can do about it. I mean, you could redact. You can redact. It's the job of the attorneys to redact private or privileged information like that. You could challenge what's privileged and what's not. It's why.
But I guess my thing is like she would, who I believe is behind like trying to fuck him over. She'll be able to see that before it's redacted, right?
No, because Baldoni's lawyers are going to have the well, actually, no, because they're going to be getting it straight from the phone companies. Mm-hmm. So if they're subpoenaing the records from the phone companies, they're going to get those records unredacted.
Or say like their kid had a rash on their butt.
Yeah.
Or something. And then like she's going to get pictures of like pictures they don't want to have be seen of their children. How is that legal?
It's why people don't like litigating stuff. Nobody wants to turn over their cell phone. Do you know how many affairs, crazy pictures, stuff is revealed in discovery that comes through my office that, is not relevant to my cases? I subpoena those records. I get those records. I don't go publishing them, but yeah. I don't go showing them to my clients. I show them the relevant things, but yeah, other people are going to be seeing private, privileged images, text messages that you wouldn't ordinarily want somebody to see. Mm-hmm. If they wanted to object to certain things, then I suppose, they'd have to raise those issues in objections. They're getting access to sensitive records, medical records. They have a right, stuff is privileged. Anyway, they're going to litigate the whole thing, but the threat is real. That yes, a lot of their intimate photos, text messages are going to be divulged.
And hers too, I guess, right?
Yeah, it's all fair game. I guess we're going to both play this game. Let's see what's really on there. So yeah, invasion of privacy through way of litigation, I guess is the way you would describe it. Baldoni's team are taking the subpoenas in stride. Subpoenas are an ordinary part of the litigation process. What is extraordinary is that what the lively parties are seeking. They're asking for every single call, text, data log, and even real-time location information for the past 2.5 years, regardless of the sender, recipient, or subject matter. This massive phishing expedition demonstrates that they are desperately seeking any factual basis for their provably false claims. They will find none. We haven't seen it yet. At least I haven't seen it, but I have to imagine based on that paragraph that they're at the very least going to file a protective motion excluding the text messages specifically to named individuals, which I'm not even sure if they could do if they're listing those 0 through 50, for example. Mm-hmm. But they have to be subject matter specific. Like they have to relate only to the movie or to Justin Baldoni. It can't be text messages to grandma for whatever. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So they're going to try to whittle it down as best they can. And I guarantee you they've already had those discussions with the judge. Probably. So it should be noted that Friedman represents Wallace, as does Crisis PR Chief Melissa Nathan, who was a fellow defendant in many of these suits. At the heart of this portion of the allegations, both Lively's strategic December 20th sexual harassment and retaliation complaint against Baldoni and her subsequent New Year's Eve formal court filing is that the high-priced Nathan was retained by Baldoni and his Wayfarer Studios to blunt any attack the actress may have made against him over conduct on IEWU. To that, Nathan's tag firm is alleged to have worked with Wallace, called Jed in some already public tests, and other correspondence from Nathan and her team to actually execute the online smear of Lively. That went after her reputation and derailed the summer 2024 launch of a new Lively product line. Nathan and fellow publicist Jennifer Abel admit that they planned a potential defense. One thing that I know about Jennifer Abel and Nathan is that she has been historically really fucking nasty in these PR campaigns. Like, she knows how to do it, and she goes for the jugular. I'm really more interested to gain or to learn more about her communications to other people not involving Baldoni, because it's very clear to me that they were probably going to try to go after her.
Which is fine in this case because it didn't happen, or that's what they're claiming, right? That it didn't happen yet. It's okay to have a plan, but that's not illegal, and that's not defamation.
Not
if it
yet.
Didn't happen.
It
right.
didn't. I mean, it has to rise to the level. I'm not sure that it ever did. I'm not sure what. Maybe they had plans to do those things.
And if she is nasty, like you say, and she goes for the jugular, I don't recall anything being that nasty and going for Blake's jugular.
No.
So then it's like, if she was behind it, then wouldn't it have been worse?
I mean, I think it was all conceptual at that point. She was like bullshitting back and forth with one of her colleagues, basically. And, speaking, it seemed to me to be in hyperbole in some moments in those text messages. Is that the one where I did the voice that nobody liked? When I was talking like, oh, that worked. Well, I'm so sorry for whoever. I didn't mean to do that. I apologize if you're wearing headphones. Was that when I was doing God? Well, it's not. You know what? It's not working out. I thought I had. I can't find it anymore. My kids came in and messed with my with all my buttons.
Oh no.
They played with my. That's cool. I was going to try to do the voice again. Nobody liked the voice. Again, it was a mixed bag. It was like 60-40 in favor of, but the 40 that didn't like it really didn't like it. So I'll never do it again. How about that? I just thought.
It's like my voice.
Yeah, see, like I could have had you play the part of the female, but it was just me. So
no, I mean my voice.
Oh, the Brianna Banks one? Are you going to do it for the unsuspecting people wearing headphones?
Oh my God.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Every single time.
Nails on a chalkboard.
Why do women think that's attractive? It's just like, oh.
Well, probably because porn was telling people it was attractive for the 90s.
Well, I mean, I guess 80s, 90s. I don't know, man. I'm not a porn connoisseur like that.
Okay, not like that.
Not like that.
The ones I watch don't have women in them.
The ones that I watch do not have those kinds of voices. So
they're just all these voices.
All I'm saying is I was doing the voice because my voice tends to get a little monotonous. The more I listen to myself, I bore myself. I imagine others are bored.
People like your voice.
Some people like my voice, but it could be a bit much. It could be a bit
like it. I've never heard anyone complain about your voice.
I have. So
who was it? Your mom?
Well, my kids, they really don't. Dad, I don't like it when you use the big voice.
Well,
I didn't even use the big voice. I was just telling you to like go wash the walls because you were drawing all over the. But you heard
think I'm yelling? Do you want to hear me yell?
Like, oh, I promise I was not. I didn't mean to yell.
In your mind, you're like, oh, motherfucker.
Oh, and they're like little girls, you know. You can they manipulate you with their cuteness.
Hey, boys do it too.
Yeah, but if I had a boy, it would not be the same thing. It's like, yeah, whatever. You can't use your cuteness on me. Do that with your mom. Tell someone who cares.
Oh man.
Then I might give him a little cup check, and then I tell him to go to his room, clean up his shit.
Cup check.
Yeah, hey, knock that off.
Oh my God.
All right. I don't have boys, in case you were wanting to call CPS. All right. So while the role and reach of Texas-based Wallace under the microscope even more of late, the attempt to dive deeper into his affairs at the keyboard and otherwise could be significant. And the overlap of Lively's likely to be amended NYE filed sexual harassment and retaliation suit against Baldoni, his Wayfarer Studios execs and PR team, and Baldoni's now amended January 16th $400 million defamation and extortion suit against Lively. Reynolds and their publicist, Leslie Sloan Wallace, could be the inflection point with an amended complaint and so-called timeline posted on its own website on the last day of January by Team Baldoni. That's at least what Team Blake are saying in their internal private messages that Baldoni's team never expected anyone would see. They bragged that thanks to Jed's work, they saw a shift in the narrative to putting a spotlight on Blake and laughed and how sad it was that people so easily want to hate on a woman. That is true. I do remember seeing those text messages. A spokesperson for Lively and Reynolds said at Deadline this afternoon, we look forward to investigating more about Jed Wallace's entire business model and what else he was doing to distract from the very real sexual harassment and retaliation claims made by Miss Lively. We are delighted to be able to start discovery on it. Oh, shut up.
Delighted.
That is a dangerous line if I ever heard one. I cannot wait to get to the bottom of it. You're going to be so fucked. Oh, it's exactly what I would say. I apologize for cursing, folks. I'm sorry, Mom. My mom doesn't like when I curse. When she watches the show and I'm cursing, she's gravely disappointed in me. Well, with multiple lawsuits, including a $7 million defamation action launched last week against Lively by alleged online smear campaign mastermind Wallace at play, Baldoni, Lively, and Reynolds are currently set to go to trial March 29th, 2026. That ain't happening. It may. Who knows? So, where was I going with that? Oh, the PR angle. So, look, it's a gamble to make such hyperbolic statements to the press in a case like that. You saw Friedman make those statements, but only after he just released the receipts and said, here's 168 pages of stuff. You got questions, go consult the website. It's very famously known as lawsuitinfo.com or something like that. Mm-hmm. Anybody that has questions, here's the receipts. And then they're saying, oh, those aren't the receipts. We have the real receipts, which I imagine they might have done, but they're just making a lot of assumptions about what it's going to uncover, and they better deliver is all I'm saying. Mm-hmm. That's all. So there was one more article that I wanted to. Oh, this was most recently. Oh, let me get this out of the way. All right. So from the Business Insider, I heard as of today, they were talking about extensions, and what was displayed by the attorneys, I read, was more litigating in public. The statements and the letters to me were not written really for the judge. I mean, they kind of were. They were. But they were also written with an understanding that these letters were going to be read by the general public. And so it wasn't just a letter or letters to the judge. It was intended to be seen by the public to further sway public opinion away from Lively into their client, Baldoni. And so this is what happened today. So Lively and Baldoni, the warring co-stars of the summer box office hit It Ends With Us, have reached an agreement of sorts in their 2-month legal battle. They have agreed to keep disagreeing. On Thursday, lawyers for both sides filed a joint letter to the Manhattan judge presiding over their now consolidated crossfire federal lawsuits in which Lively accuses Baldoni of sexually harassing her on the set, and he accuses her of defamation, among other things, breach of contracts, interference with economic perspective advantage, and all kinds of other stuff. On Thursday, I read that. Their joint letter said they had zero interest in seeing a mediator and negotiating a settlement, despite the court ordering them in late January to begin the dispute resolution process. The letter asked U.S. District Judge Louis Lyman to exempt them from mediation. Litigants in employment-related cases are required to participate in dispute resolution program unless a judge orders otherwise. The Lively and Baldoni legal teams have known since late January that settlement discussions would be premature. Every time I've had these civil cases, I don't agree to go to mediation until all the discovery is done. Like, what's the point of that?
Right.
You still have it in your mind that my client is hiding $1 million buried in Cuba somewhere. So why don't we just finish your discovery so we have all the facts, and then we'll start talking about
negotiating.
Yeah. So it makes perfect sense to me. After conferring again on Friday, the parties continued to agree that mediation was inappropriate. The letter said the judge can decide at any time whether to let the parties off the mediation hook. Besides coordination scheduling in late January, Thursday's agree to disagree letter is the first joint agreement in the growing Lively Baldoni case file. The legal teams are otherwise quite busy. Both sides are preparing to file motions in which they will ask the judge to dismiss the other side's claims. It's not going to work. It's a formality. They're going to file their motions, rack up the legal fees. They're going to get denied. This is going on a trial unless they settle it. The web of life. Did you just yawn?
Nope.
Totally did. About my voice. See, you just proved my point.
No, without going into detail, I think you know why I may yawn.
Well, true. The web of
it's not you, it's me, I swear.
I understand. It is like 1 a.m. over there. My apologies for that.
No worries.
The web of life. I did say I was going to do this like at 4:30 today, my time, which would have been a much more reasonable time. But lawyer shit and all of the stuff that I have to do in my real career.
I'm here, man.
I know. Unlike others, Lauren Nighty. Sometimes you just got to sack up, man, and get it done. Mm-hmm. Sometimes. I'm kidding. Lively's lawsuit filed on New Year's Eve names as defendant Baldoni's film studio, his fellow producers, and his publicist, who she alleged engaged in a retaliatory social media smear campaign against her after learning she was accusing him of harassment. Baldoni's lawsuit filed 2 weeks later, seeking $400 million. This is nothing we don't already know. Okay. So what is my point in highlighting these articles and kind of taking score of where we're at? All I'm saying is I feel, I'm known in that subreddit, it ends with us lawsuits, as being one of like the 6 lawyers that are commenting on this case, along with, I forget who the others were. I didn't recognize a couple of them, but I was on there and they listed me as fair and objective, which I appreciated because I'm trying to be fair and objective. I'm not declaring victory for Baldoni just yet. I'm just saying that Friedman has come with a lot of what I perceive to be receipts. At the very least, what I've already been able to do is eliminate certain causes of action as being relevant in her lawsuit. The sexual harassment claims are going nowhere unless there's some bombshell piece of discovery that pops out of nowhere that wasn't alluded to in Lively's original complaint. Because if it's what she's talking about in her complaint, if that's all it was, I don't see it, man. I don't see it. Yeah. I see the potential for a smear campaign against Lively. Maybe. That's going to be determined by what comes out in the wash with the PR team for Wayfarer and Sony execs and all that other stuff. I don't think Baldoni had anything to do with it. To me, and let me know what you think about this, but to me, Justin seems like a really nice guy trying to make a name for himself in Hollywood. He came into this with the best of intentions. He tried to make friends with Blake Lively. Blake Lively may or may not be a sociopath, according to your theory of the case. She may or may not have had romantic feelings for him that her husband found out about, causing him to go full on Will Smith on Justin Baldoni on 2 occasions. But I haven't seen anything that suggests to me that Justin Baldoni had the motive to push Lively out of this film or smear her character in any way, or that he had the resources to do anything like that. If there was a smear campaign, it might have originated from the Sony execs or the Wayfarer team by way of their PR departments and their desire to stop having to deal with the fallout from Lively's failure to cooperate in the advertising, putting out this perception that there was a rift between her and Justin, all of the demands, you're going to do this for me or else these 20 different things. I'm going to have my own personal editor have sway in the final edit. I'm going to show my version of the movie at this showing party, all these different things. I just think they got tired of her shit. Mm-hmm. And so if there is any smoke to this smear campaign, I don't see it coming from Baldoni's side, but he's not the only person involved in the lawsuit. Mm-hmm. So there's still questions that I have. Is this an advisable course for Justin Baldoni to take? I think is the better question. What do you think about that?
Like to enter into this lawsuit?
Well, for him to continue, yes. For him to pursue this lawsuit in the way that he is, with Friedman at the helm, quarterbacking this thing, who is like a PR mastermind, going about putting all of his dirty laundry out there in a very public way. And yeah, it's building public sentiment. But on the other hand, he's still got to work in Hollywood.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it depends on what's more important to him. Is it just being a people pleaser and kind of staying quiet? Like, or is it, his integrity? If at this point, after what she's done, he's not, I mean, he was dropped by his agency, like an award was stripped from him. So if he just laid back and tried to come back in a couple of years, I mean, his name has been tarnished already. So to me, everyone has a choice, right? But I do feel like this is the right choice. And he's like, hey, I'm willing to put my stuff out there. I'm willing to have everyone see everything because I know what the truth is underneath it all.
Well, I mean, when I first started looking at the pleadings, they're accusing him of being a sexual predator. He can't just take that. If he doesn't defend himself, then he's just a sexual predator then, isn't he?
Exactly. And he's got at least one kid. How many kids? 2 kids?
Yeah, I mean, they're already in it now. They're already trying to smear him. He might as well fight back. And look, he kind of has a playbook. Johnny Depp, and he's not Johnny Depp by any measure. Like Johnny Depp is like a AAA lister,
Right.
But he lost Pirates of the Caribbean as a result, hundreds of millions of dollars. He lost that franchise. I don't know what other opportunities he lost. There was a moment in time where public perception had briefly turned against him.
Yes.
And there was some shit that came out of that lawsuit that people just kind of glossed over because they hated Amber Heard a lot. Mm-hmm. Like there was legit evidence that wasn't admissible at trial that legitimately said and proved that he 100% kicked Amber Heard in the back. Mm-hmm. And people just kind of, well, what are you going to do? She was a lying cunt. And people just kind of moved on. But it didn't make its way into the record because it wasn't even admissible. I'm not sure why Heard's attorneys didn't fight harder for that. I don't know if they were just overwhelmed because Depp's attorneys were so persuasive at that trial, but there was damaging evidence on Depp's side for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, I know they had someone, like they asked someone if they saw that happen on the plane, and it was one of, a witness for his side, and they said that they didn't recall that happening. But I didn't have, for me personally, I didn't have any particular opinion going into watching that stuff. I had heard about the case and I knew it was happening and I knew I wanted to watch the trial, but I didn't watch really anything leading up to that. And when I saw her on the stand, I was like, this bitch is fucking fake as shit. And it's like Laura, where you tell 99 lies and then you tell one truth. Well, the truth is going to look like a lie. People aren't going to know because you've been lying. It's the boy who cried wolf kind of thing, right? So maybe she was telling the truth about some of the physical abuse from him. But after she had lied about being raped with a broken glass bottle, which in my opinion, obviously did not fucking happen.
Yeah.
And the plethora of other things, and her trying to, film him to try to have evidence that he was drunk, Anyway,
What was
And
the
then
famous line? I didn't punch you. I slapped you. Stop being a little bitch.
yeah,
Or whatever.
exactly. Yeah, recordings of her verbally abusing him and
Yeah.
him trying to disengage. And him going into the bathroom and trying to hide from her, which is, what he claimed. So it was like the worst. It was like he did some bad shit, but she did a lot worse shit. Is how I ended up coming
Yeah.
out from
And that's what
watching
happens when you lose credibility. Even if you're telling the truth, when you tell the truth, nobody's going to know.
exactly.
And so Renata says, before I forget her comment, she says, Omar, Sony
President.
president
Mhm.
told Jennifer Abel to stop the negative press on Lively because it would hurt the movie. Sony would engage in a smear campaign, but Baldoni could not. I don't fucking know. I don't know. Maybe Baldoni did. I don't know. I'm not absolving anybody. I'm not absolving Baldoni. I'm not absolving any of the Sony execs, any of the Wayfarer execs. I'm refraining from lodging an opinion until I see more evidence. It's completely possible that somewhere behind the scenes, Baldoni was engaging in it. I could see that. I can. It doesn't make sense based on what I've seen so far, but that's why we do discovery, because we're still in the fact-finding stage of litigation. So yeah, it's possible that Baldoni could have engaged in a smear campaign. I'm not suggesting that issue has been settled any more than I'm suggesting that the sexual harassment claims of Lively are 100% dismissible at this point, because they're not. There's still tribal issues in that. And like I said, we're at the very beginning of the fact-finding process. So we'll see. The other thing I was going to comment on before I forget was that Baldoni kind of has a playbook of how this is going to go, and Friedman is very well aware of it. And he's basically following the Amber Heard playbook about how to destroy somebody's credibility. And even if there's some negative stuff that comes out, what do we know? We know that if he's sympathetic enough, and if we paint her to be monstrous enough, then even if there's some hints of bad behavior on Baldoni's part, it will be forgiven and he will work again. I think that he's banking on the fact that it might not be great for my career, but if I do nothing, like you said, he's going to get steamrolled.
Yeah.
And if public perception hits a certain way, then he's going to be fine. On the other hand, this is awful for Blake Lively. It is awful in the way that I don't know what Amber Heard, what her career looks like after the Depp v. Heard trial.
She's doing nothing so far.
No film credits, no acting gigs, no nothing.
She's like living in Spain, raising her kid.
So her career's over. She's done.
For now. I mean,
For
I
now.
think that she would have offers from a certain tier of people in Hollywood if she came back and wanted to get back into things. But yeah, as of right now, it's no career.
I mean, I'll invite her on the Tilted Lawyer podcast, but you know. Open invitation, by the way. We could talk about whatever.
Could you imagine? She's like, "Hey, I saw your video."
I know. Jesus Christ. I don't think that's the kind of gig she's looking for. So. I'm just saying, Lively is seemingly built a reputation among insiders in Hollywood. And when people start digging up articles from 2009 that mirrors some of the behavior that we've seen in this lawsuit, that's not good for her.
No.
She does have a lot more contacts, I would say, than Amber Heard. I guess Amber Heard's biggest would have been Johnny Depp. But
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But Reynolds is still a guy that I guess has influence or should have influence. But I don't know if it's going to be the career killer that it was for Heard, for Lively, but I think it's going to be a lot worse for her than Baldoni at this point. Now, look, it might come to pass that, you know, there's all kinds of crazy text messages and other stuff that we didn't know that give context to the receipts that Friedman tried to post at the end of January. It's possible that perceptions could change. I'm just saying that those were a lot of big claims made by Blake Lively's attorneys, and they better deliver, because if they don't, there's going to be consequences that may not be recoverable. And ultimately, at that point, if after they conduct discovery, they figure out that this is not going to go the way that we wanted it to go, they're going to start talking settlement. And at that point, we're going to be talking about public apologies and NDAs. And I'm of the opinion that this is what's going to happen. At some point in, say, June, after depositions and the conclusion of the bulk of discovery. I think that they're going to settle this case for an undisclosed amount. They're both going to walk away. Nobody's going to get any money. They're going to sign NDAs and they're going to apologize to each other and just agree to not ever speak again. I feel like that's where we're going with that. But it's not going to come absent an apology in the way that she characterized Justin in the lawsuit as a sexual predator.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, maybe she could say this was my perception due to my own insecurities or something.
Oh, she ain't gonna say all that, but she'll say something. Like in the way they try to craft. Didn't her and Reynolds try to write a statement that they wanted Justin Baldoni to adopt?
Yeah, they did. And actually someone was saying in the chat much earlier that I guess when you read through the documentation that you kind of skipped over that and they were wanting you to read the whole statement.
Kai, I did see that that interview with Brian Friedman. I remember Friedman talking about he wanted an apology and other stuff. He was talking real tough in that. One thing I know about that, of course you're going to talk like that. What's your first offer in any kind of a negotiation? I want $500 million. And it's like the office, like, okay, I don't even want to know. Obviously, I reject the first offer. What's your second offer? And then they say, well, I didn't even want to know what your first offer was. That's kind of how these things go. But they're going to ask for the moon and the stars, and they're going to say that we have all the evidence that warrants a $400 million settlement. We'll settle for $3 million. Tell you what, $300 million, all this goes away. We'll sign NDAs. They're going to have those whole discussions. I know what they said, Kai. I saw that interview. I don't know when it was, like 2 weeks ago or whenever it was. That was before. I think that was at the point where I started to get into the 168-page document. Hey, J-Hip, thank you so much for the 5. That's our first super chat of the podcast for today's show. And so thank you for that. Will I get an undisclosed amount for following this? You will get an undisclosed thank you and have a whiskey and a cigar and a fist bump. Pow. maybe a I don't know. What else could we offer? What could we offer, Schnitz?
A shirtless stream.
I can never go shirtless on a stream. I'll tell you what, you go shirtless on your stream with your
who says I'm not right now?
You just might be.
I'm shirtless in my picture. I just have a mask on.
You're like straight up naked in your picture. You got some beef flaps in that
beef flaps. Oh my god.
I mean, what is that thing hanging down? That's not a penis.
It's breaded schnitzel.
Well, why has it got to be in that shape? That's such
I don't know.
That is a curious place to place a curve like that.
I think the artist did a phenomenal job, and I was stoked when I saw this.
Oh, was that like an artist that like drew something for you?
Or they designed it for me. Yep.
Wow. I thought it was just I didn't know what it was. I never considered it, I guess.
Well, I had a different picture at first, and then I decided I wanted like a unique one, and someone reached out and said they would do it for me. So I love it.
I've been meaning to take like professional pictures for the podcast. Like all the big podcasters do. They have like Dave Neal's got his professional like model pictures or whatever. It's like, hey, I've been looking into hiring a photographer, and then like but I don't think I need to anymore because Lauren adopted that picture that I sent her from like 2000.
Yeah.
And now that's like the big emoji, I guess.
Oh. I love it.
Anyway, folks, this whole podcast was just designed to give my opinion on what the score is between these two crazy kids. And it's not just between these two individuals. I mean, there's, Sony, Wayfarer, It Ends With Us, LLC, businesses, other folks. There's a lot of people that are going to be dragging all of this. Lively and Baldoni are the stars, the star parties, I guess. The main plaintiff and defendant, cross plaintiff, whatever. If you're asking me who's winning at this point, I don't know who's winning the litigation. I just know that the PR seems to be overwhelmingly in favor of Justin because they do not have the gravitas that Brian Friedman has in his ability to craft and persuade and compel public opinion. I don't know what they're doing over there, but they're making a lot of statements that I would be nervous making, which is, I don't think, look, Friedman said what he said based on things that he knew, that he already had. When you start making promises and statements and speaking hyperbolic on things that you don't know is going to come out or not come out, then you're taking a risk. And based on whatever's going to come out from their subpoenas, they're either going to wildly gain credibility or completely destroy their credibility.
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess we'll see. All you need is an iPhone stand under shade, but facing into the light. I don't know, man. I'm not really an iPhone guy. I'm still on the Android thing. I thought about getting an iPhone. I couldn't do it. I just couldn't.
How come?
Because it's just like, I don't know. Like, what's the point of an iPhone? Like, what does it do better than an Android?
It's just different.
See, different is not better, though.
No. I mean, my whole family has iPhones, so I have an iPhone.
I feel it's like a badge of honor to have an Android nowadays. Like, everyone's like, oh.
I can't send you GIFs. It literally is like, this user cannot accept a GIF.
Oh, yeah. Like, or you'll try to send one. It says, Schnitzel exclaims this text message or comment or whatever. It's like, what does that mean? She exclaims this. Kirsten Dixon says, it was me that suggested reading the statement, and I would love to hear your opinion on it. Which statement are we talking about?
I sent it to you in private chat.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. But you have to scroll down on the link a little bit. You're going to get a pop-up, but it's there.
Well. Oh, I know what we're talking about. This is the statement right here. I'll share my screen with you folks. And we'll read it together. I'll give you my opinion, and then we could wrap up the show on that. That would be a good note. I think a 90-minute stream is a good amount.
That's good.
All right. I know that you're. Oh, Jesus.
Oh.
How do I get rid of this? Block. Disable your. Fuck.
Do continue without disabling.
Oh, is that a. Here we go. All right. So this is the statement.
There it is right there. Yeah.
It was allegedly drafted in August of 2024, the same month that It Ends With Us was released, and lively received backlash from fans for how she addressed the domestic violence theme of the movie. And this was the statement. It Ends With Us has a troubled production, which we take full accountability for. We are very sorry to everyone we caused upset to privately and publicly. Blake Lively, Colleen Hoover, the entire cast and crew led with professionalism every step of the way. Any negativity aimed at them is ours to own. Get the fuck out of here. Mm-hmm. The alleged statement read, we mutually agreed. I feel like I read this was this in the timeline?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I don't know if I glossed over it or not. I must have.
From what your people say, you glossed over it.
I probably did. I glossed over quite a bit. Jesus. We mutually agreed that the cast would be promoting the film separately and understood why. We have always said we are not perfect, and even if unintentionally make mistakes, we will always own them. The alleged statement continued, we hold ourselves accountable. It's not anyone's job but ours, and that part of being man enough. We will practice what we preach. We are learning and growing from the experience, and we thank everyone for their patience as we find a better way to proceed. We are very proud of the film and the welcome arms that it's been received. Part of our work is to have uncomfortable conversations for public growth. The film is doing that on screen, and we are doing that off screen. Thank you to the cast, crew, and public for the opportunity to be imperfect and to be given the space to learn and grow. The alleged statement was signed with humanity and dedication.
I feel like that has Ryan Reynolds written all over it because it's poking at him too. The man enough is about his book and like the thing that he preaches.
Yeah.
Himself. I just feel this being just like a huge dig at Baldoni.
Well, it says Reynolds and Lively purportedly believe Melissa Nathan is responsible for this positioning and demand. Oh, what part? Oh, I thought that was maybe I misread. I thought I read that the allegation was specifically that it was Reynolds and Lively that came up with this statement.
I mean, I think they presented it to him, but I feel like I in reading it, I hear a lot of Ryan's voice in this.
I don't know what Ryan sounds like.
I feel like at least from what I know, obviously I don't know him personally, but that it's like that sarcasm. Like if you think Nice Pool is based on Baldoni, like I feel
Hmm.
like this is Nice Pool saying this.
Fair
And like,
enough.
yeah.
I'll tell you what I would have done. Well, I don't want to say what I would do in anybody else's shoes. I'm just saying that you forced me to take my name off of the movie. You forced me to relinquish a credit. You forced me to give you an unwarranted credit. You made all of these demands that I bend to your whims. You changed the scripts. You changed the wardrobe. You've been doing this for months now. And now that things are not going in your favor, that the public backlash is such that people are pissed at you, you want me to take credit for that too? Fuck right off.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Is
I
what
say
we
fuck
should.
right the fuck off.
Right the fuck off. Hey, I'll tell you what. I'm going to edit this a little bit, and then I would say, with 5 words, fuck right off, you lively cunts. How about that?
You lively cunts.
I think that would have been an appropriate retort. But yeah, to the extent that that's what happened, I mean, that's how ego-driven do you have to be to, number one, write something like that, but number 2, expect them to just say, yeah, okay, I'll sign that. Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Where do I sign? That is wild to me. I mean, Hollywood is just a whole other universe
It's crazy.
I'll never understand. And to the extent that that is a real statement that is admissible in courts, I think that that's going to fit a narrative. Kind of what you saw, kind of what you were saying earlier about sociopath Blake Lively has in her mind that she wanted to take over this movie from the very beginning. She began the process very early on in 2023 with minor changes here and there. And then minor changes became medium request, and medium request became large request. And then large request became, I have these 20 demands, otherwise I'm not doing marketing for the film. And then it became, I'm bringing my own editor and we're using my version of the film, otherwise I'm not doing this, this, or that. And shifting deadlines and over exceeding the budget, not signing contractual obligations that were designed to protect her well-being from sexual harassment or other poor behavior. It's a bit much. And now you want me to come out and just take ownership for the perceived negativity that surrounds the film. Mm-hmm. Now that's a bridge too far. And I wonder if this statement was real. I wonder if that was the moment that Baldoni said, you know what? I've had it. And I wonder if he started consulting with Friedman at that time.
Could be. I mean, he definitely started consulting with the PR firm.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And look, I'm not saying it might very well have been motive for him to just continue with a smear campaign or try to orchestrate it behind the scenes. I just haven't seen any evidence that Baldoni has that kind of juice in Hollywood.
No, or that he even has that in his personality. I feel like, at least in everything we've seen, he's been very measured and even keeled and even just bummed about the whole thing.
I take that with a grain of salt, though, because it's just been my experience as a litigator for 11 years, that whenever somebody is that over the top, squeaky clean in text messages, in evidence, and in writing, there's something underneath that needs to be exposed. And I'm just bracing myself for some kind of evidence that just switches the narrative. Is it forthcoming? I don't know. For Depp, the evidence would have been the allegation of him kicking Amber Heard in the back on the airplane or whatever with witnesses that never made its way to court. It was inadmissible for whatever reason. In this case, I don't know what that evidence would be. I'm just saying that I am of the opinion that Baldoni is a really nice guy, and I wonder if it's going to be like Bill Cosby. You know, he's America's dad for like 1980 until 2015 or whenever those allegations come, and then he's like a serial rapist.
But again, those times were different, and I think that, especially with as many years as he worked on Jane the Virgin, that people from that show and that set there would be murmurs or whispers of shit that he did then. And
True.
I don't know. I think it's hard to imagine, especially someone in Hollywood, that they are just a good, genuine person and not shit talking people and not maybe scheming. I don't know, but I've always gotten the vibe that he's just a good dude. Maybe younger, like earlier in life, maybe he like had a lot of fuck ups and learned from that and maybe like really leaned into
Like
to
everybody else.
his religion, to his relationship with his wife, and like really is just trying to be a better human being.
Oh, I got some super chats I got to get to.
Yeah.
Kai with the 7 says, I like your impartiality. You did skip over the interesting parts, i.e., the statement they wanted them to release. Hope you're covering this. Oh, I think I got to that now, Kai.
Yep.
But Kai, you've been amazing. I know you've been watching the long streams that I was doing. I did skip over some parts, and my apologies on that. It's a bad habit that I have. I feel like I get the gist of something. And oh, look, here is what they're claiming, and I guess there's evidence to support it. Let's move on. But part of that was because I was going over it for like 10 to 12 hours or whatever it was. I promise I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm not planning any more 12-hour live streams or any ever for that matter. Oh, is this the same one? Yeah. I don't get, there we go. Jay Hip says, I have to go to bed tonight with topless schnitzel in my head. Ugh, rude. Well, some would not consider that like a kind of thing. I'm sure there are some that would, have the other opinion of that thought. You know?
Well, all they have to imagine is a schnitzel.
Oh, maybe the thing about your picture with the mysterious meat flap there at the bottom.
Exactly.
Seriously, what is the reason for that, man? Why would they put a curve right there?
I
They
don't
did that
know.
on purpose. They did that shit on purpose. I'm just letting you know.
Oh, maybe. I don't know. I like it. I like the way it looks.
I've never considered it literally until this moment. Kai says, yes, he hired his lawyer right after that statement. That makes all the sense in the world to me. It's like, all right, I've had enough. Had enough, man. Consider this. Consider this. It's been bothering me what Reynolds with another yawn, another topless yawn.
No, what are you talking about?
Oh, maybe I imagined it. I don't know. It is 10:48 over here. It's past my bedtime. I know it's past your bedtime, man. It's a school night. But imagine this. It's been bothering me since the beginning of this case. Ryan Reynolds blowing up about the weight loss comment, or asking about her weight, blowing up at Justin when they were trying to have like a kumbaya, let's get on the same page type of meeting, and he's singling Justin out of the group. What if in the wash there's like a wayward dick pic that made its way on the Lively's phone, or some kind of similar genre pic that he saw, and it caused the jealousy that we're witnessing in his behavior? What if it was something? It doesn't have to be a dick pic or anything. I'm just saying, I'm trying to illustrate the example. What if it was some kind of wayward text that we don't know about, that maybe he wasn't being so squeaky clean as the result of Lively's flirtatious overtures?
I don't know. I just don't see it. I see it as him like, I don't believe she would have been his first pick for the role. I feel like a lot of the stuff that he said that was positive towards her was to placate her and to make her feel better. And she's the star, and he's trying to have, the whole project work and everyone be happy. And not to say that it wasn't genuine that he was trying to be nice to her, but I don't see him being into her at all. I see him like getting the ick real early on, if not before she was, right when she was cast. I don't know. I just don't see this whole like jealousy thing. And that's the other thing. We haven't heard whispers in Hollywood of like Ryan Reynolds being a jealous boyfriend or jealous husband. So, but what we have heard is Blake Lively is a little shit bitch, and that, she's like hard to work with, and that she puts other people down and she gets people fired. And like, I feel like she's the center of the issue.
Well, I can tell that I'm making some people angry. Stir Crazy is really mad at me because I was playing devil's advocate with Baldoni. I'm not saying that he's Bill Cosby. I'm not saying that he's a bad guy. I'm not saying that
You're
he's
just
done
saying it's
any
a
of those things.
possibility.
I'm just saying,
we
like,
don't have
what if the unknown is, the unknown? Like, because I agree. I understand his religion. I understand that all the PR out there and all the videos, and he's a family guy, and that was put on full display in his timeline. I'm just saying, I'm afraid. I'm really sensitive to the fact that what if, all these people that we build up, and because we only know the public person of it, I'm nervous about what's going to come out on the other end. They're confident about something. I don't know what it is. I'm not calling him Bill Cosby. I'm not calling him a dick pic guy. I'm not calling him, I'm not saying that he's done anything wrong. I'm just raising the possibility that what is the source of their confidence when making these hyperbolic statements ahead of discovery. That's all. Yeah. Because what I know of Justin is he's the real deal. Squeaky clean, religious guy, family man, upstanding dude, outstanding moral compass, seems to have been taken advantage of and bullied by a group of unsavory individuals led by Blake Lively and the people that she has influence over. So stir crazy, don't be too mad at me. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to insinuate that Baldoni is any of these things. I am just raising the possibility that maybe there might be something else that we don't know about, and I don't want to find out what it is. I mean, I'm going to find out what it is. I'm just saying that we don't know what we don't know. That's all. Right. That's all. I'm playing devil's advocate. If I'm going to be impartial, then I have to raise those questions, and I'm raising them on both sides, and that's just how it is. I'm not playing favorites to Justin. If there were evidentiary quandaries that would lead me to change my mind, it would revolve somewhere around that. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I feel like if there was stuff like that, it would have came out in her original complaint. And so it's really just me spitballing out loud. That's all. That's all it is. That's all it is. So with that, I think that we covered it for tonight. Is there anything else that you wanted to advance before we wrap it up for tonight?
I didn't know if you were interested in saying anything more about the other lawyer you mentioned.
Oh, the other lawyer? Yeah. Well, for those of you that have been following the Clayton Echard case and are familiar with an attorney named David Gingras, if you want to watch the opposite of a masterclass in PR, then go back and follow the Laura Owens versus Clayton Echard paternity suit. Just a brief background. There was this lady, her name was Laura Owens. She dated a gentleman named Clayton Echard, and dating would be a stretch. Like they met up like once or twice or something like that.
Once. For 2 blowjobs in one night.
He was her realtor for something. I don't even know if they completed that transaction. I'm just saying.
They didn't. Yeah.
She was over his house. She was head over heels for in love. I don't know if in love is the right word. Infatuated with him.
In obsession with him. They
had sexual relations that didn't include penetrative sex. As a result of that one singular encounter, she claimed to have been pregnant by twins. She demonstrated by taking a pregnancy test in front of Echard that, look, I have a positive pregnancy test. There was all kinds of requests to take ultrasounds, and there was fake ultrasounds. And look, I'm not going to rehash all the facts. Let's just say if you're interested in it, go back and just do your research on that case because it is wild. I only say that to suggest this, that before this attorney named David Gingras got involved, it was one thing. When he got involved, because David Gingras is the kind of guy that's not really famous, that really wants to be famous, that is wildly insecure about anybody that doesn't like him or has contrary opinions to his, and you want to watch an example of what not to do as an attorney in a PR case. One of the things that you should not do is make arguments on behalf of your client without being aware and having an encyclopedic knowledge of all of the evidence that is against your client. That's mistake number one. Mistake number two would be, imagine Brian Friedman jumping on like Twitter or something, or Facebook or something, and like getting into these shit pissing matches with random YouTube commenters. He didn't do any of that. He just dropped the receipts, made a website. Here's the receipts. Come check them out if you want to, and then left. dropped the
And
mic.
did interviews also.
Did
He's done
interviews with like legit people, and all of his comments were not hyperbolic. They weren't threatening. They weren't like these ridiculous whatever Gingras was on during that case, but they were based in facts. They were based on merits, and they were not insecure at all. And he didn't have to go on and make these hyperbolic statements. He just dropped the receipts and said, check it out. Based on what I know about this case, I think that Lively's dead in the water. And you want to know why? Here's my website. Check it out. The results of that approach, relying on facts and evidence, has been that he's been able to control this narrative, and he's been able to flip the PR perception, the public perception against Blake Lively completely, so far anyway. And he's largely resurrected what might have been the complete and utter destruction of Justin Baldoni's career in Hollywood simply by force of menace and focusing so heavily on the facts and the evidence because it was on his side. Notice that Lively, in response, their attorneys, not that they're, I'm not attacking them at all. I'm just saying that notice that they haven't felt the need to jump on Twitter or Facebook or social media or YouTube or any of these other outlets and make these hyperbolic statements about Brian Friedman being in over his head, about him being inept, about, insulting those that support Justin Baldoni, about calling Justin Baldoni's supporters a cult, about all these other this and that, because they're focusing and relying on evidence, and that is how you litigate cases. That's how you run PR campaigns. And just for shits and giggles, for the pure laughs of it all, if you're really interested in what's going on with this guy, David Gingras, you should watch some of the other videos on my channel where I address specifically his approach to the cases, some of his legal arguments. I've literally offered to bring the guy on my show to do like these legal debates. He has at some point said that he would do it, and others said, yeah, I'm dead to him, because I made legal arguments that ran counter to his that basically disqualified his entire argument. And then he says that I'm full of shit and I don't know what I'm doing. Yet when I saw the appellate response, it largely mirrored the points that I was making way back when. And he got awfully sore about it. And I don't know what's up with that guy. I don't know if he's on the way out. Who knows? I'm just saying that if you were to juxtapose the PR approach from Brian Friedman to David Gingras, it is quite the contrast. And I don't want to say too much other than that, because I got a lot more that I can say that I'm going to refrain from saying just because. I'm just going to say, I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to say that.
Tell me later.
I'll tell you later. All right, folks. I apologize for the David Gingras rants. But that's all I got for today's show. We'll see what comes out. And by the way, for those of you that are supporting Justin Baldoni, please do not read into me raising possible other alternate theories of the case that maybe there might be other stuff that might be negative towards Justin Baldoni. I don't have any evidence of that. I don't know if it's coming. I'm just, as an attorney, nervous of what might potentially come, just because I've been doing this for a long time. It might come to pass that everything that they're saying is 100% legit, and Lively is in a lot of trouble because she's making a lot. She's writing a lot of cash. She's writing a lot of checks that I'm not sure she's going to be able to cash, but we'll wait and see what comes out in the evidence. That is all. So that is it. Is there anything other than the Gingras stuff, Schnitzel, that you want to
I don't think so. I think you're doing a great job covering it. I understand why that too, but the Lively Baldoni stuff. I think you're choosing to do these streams, and I think that's part of your job in doing these, and also with your background, is to look at both sides. Look at it's what you did in the Owens case, and people were not happy at first that you were, starting it from a non-biased place and just looking at the evidence. But that's exactly what needs to be done, because that's how I've said it before. That's how I started off believing her when I saw what she wrote on Reddit. And then when the evidence came out, I used my brain. I have one. And I looked at the evidence and I said, I think this is true. I think this isn't true. This is what I think happened. And so I mean that's the fair way to go about it. I think it's the only way to go about it.
Well, you should know if you're going to watch my coverage of the case, I'm not Perez Hilton. I'm not TMZ. I don't know who these people
Thank
are.
God.
I don't care about these people. I'm never going to watch their movies. I'm here for the legalities of it all and the legal analysis. And so I could tell you this, if Justin were my client, one of the conversations I would have is before I started running my mouth to TMZ doing these interviews, before I dropped these receipts, this evidence to spin public perception is, dude, am I going to come across any bullshit in these text messages? I need to know right now. Mm-hmm. What's the worst thing that it's not out there that I need to know? Like, I need to know all of it. Attorney-client privilege. I have this conversation with every single one of my clients. Like, look, it's fine if you want to argue that. Am I going to see text messages about you threatening her? I'm talking about my domestic violence cases. Some of these cases where it's like, oh, she's a big liar. She's making it up. She made a false police report and all this kind of stuff. It's like, okay, fine, fair enough, fair game. Am I going to see text messages come out where you're making threats or insults or stating derogatory things about her that you're not telling me about? If there is, no big deal. I need to know about it. Mm-hmm. And then they'll either say no, or they'll think about it and say, well, maybe, and then they'll show me their phone. We'll get to the bottom of it, because I can't make claims and arguments about my clients in defense of them with time bombs being out there or landmines that I'm inevitably going to stand on or step on in the middle of a freaking trial.
When you're not prepared.
Right. Yeah, because if that happens, like, I mean, seriously, I mean, you didn't think that was going to come out? You didn't think that I could have got a heads up that there is a video of you breaking her car window with a hammer? Stupid ass. Why wouldn't you tell me that? Mm-hmm. I didn't think it existed. Everybody's got Ring cameras, dipshit. I've had that conversation before. I've literally had, hey, this person tells me, all right, so I don't know, he made a false police report about me keying his car, but I just went there to drop off my kid and that was it. It's like, okay, well, is there Ring cameras? Yes. Am I going to find you on video keying a car? It's like, no. And that made me nervous. Come to find out, like 2 weeks later, so I got a call from the cops and they just asked me a question. What did they ask you? Well, they just said that they saw me on video and I was like kind of standing and I paused next to his car and I maybe could have keyed it, but it doesn't show definitively. And then they said, did you key the fucking car? It's like, okay, yes. So then it's like, all right. Why would you lie about that? Why would you think I just didn't need to know that?
To your lawyer, of all people.
If you can't tell me, then, I mean, I was so frustrated. Yeah. Anyway, that case ended up getting settled, thankfully. There was bad stuff going on both sides, but my client should have told me about those little landmines that she was setting up for me that might have been discovered in the midst of an evidentiary hearing and made me look really stupid.
Oh my God.
And so when I ask these questions about Baldoni, it's because historically, whenever I see evidence that is so heavily skewed one side, one of two things is true. Either he really is that squeaky clean, and hey, there's people out there like that. They're rare. And when you see and run across somebody like that, it's a rarity. They're gems, you know, they're solid, good, salt of the earth kind of people. But sometimes they don't know that there's stuff out there that you're going to find out that might speak contrary. That's all. So when I raise these possible scenarios with Baldoni, my only point in even bringing it up is not to attack his character. I'm not impugning his reputation. I'm just raising the what if. It always makes me nervous when the other side, before they get discovery, is that confident where they're saying that those aren't the receipts. These are the actual receipts. Then I would go to my client, Justin, what is it that they're talking about? Is there something that I need to know? Mm-hmm. We would have that talk, and we talk probably for a good hour or two about it, about what it could possibly be. Now, he might just say, look, here's my phone. Go through it yourself. All right, cool. I'll go through that. Is there any other phones? Is there any fake phone numbers that you might have? Is there any like social media accounts, anonymous accounts? Is there anything that I need to know that could be tied to this phone? It's not just about what is in text. We got to go through the entire investigative process. And so that's all. When I raise those possibilities, it's only because I'm being thorough and nothing more. So I apologize if you were offended by me raising the prospect of maybe Baldoni might have some landmines out there. It's just me asking questions. That's all. That's all, folks. That's all. So with that, I think it's a good time to wrap up. What you think about that, Schnitz?
Yeah, I think it's great. And I completely agree with what you said from a non-lawyer's perspective.
Yes, ma'am. All right. I'm going to let you get some rest. I am going to settle in for the night. And thanks for coming on the stream. It's always a lot of fun to have you on. Hey, you down for flat tomorrow?
I gotta ask my husband about that.
Oh, shit! Isn't it Valentine's Day?
It is. Fuck. Are you gonna do it?
TBD on that one. If I don't do it tomorrow, I will do it on Saturday night. I'll let you know.
Okay, I can definitely do Saturday night
for sure. I don't know. Well, I'd imagine people on Valentine's night are not going to be wanting to listen to Flat unless they're like really lonely and they're hate watching it because of. Never mind. Anyway. All right, folks. I love you all. Schnitzel, thanks for coming on once again.
Thanks for having me.
And we will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.